Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, the Three Topic Scammer here to give you another episode of my weekly Q&A to how the people's questions where I answer a series of questions that have been sent to me over the past week. This episode's probably not going to be shorter than last week's episode, even though for this particular episode I only had about 3 questions I thought could actually be answered in the video. There were a bunch of other questions that, surprisingly, I think a couple of them were answered by other people, which I do appreciate because, that kind of lets me know that you guys do pay attention. So, if you feel like you can actually answer a question someone else asks me, that really helps. And there were just a couple other ones that were just a little bit just too straightforward and basic, so I answered them in the comment section of the previous video. So if you don't hear them in this video, then you'll know where to look. If you haven't already gotten your notifications that I responded to your comment. So before I get into these primary 3 questions, like always, if you happen to enjoy this video by the end, do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and press the subscribe button because every subscription really does count. And heck, I'm looking to hopefully get a good head start before I start working on the main set of goals I want to shoot for 2021. And before I start answering questions, I would just like to let you guys give you a heads up. If you guys send in your question, if you go by a specific name, that's how I'm gonna call you. It's just simpler. So if you go by a different name and it says something else, well, it might add a little bit of confusion, but that's just how it works, because that's kind of how this first question works. And it comes from Ellen Degenerate. I know that's someone else, but heck, that's what it says, so that's what I'm gonna call you. And you want to know, if Antoine offered you to move in with him and be his roommate, would you accept, or would you rather just move to a different city, state of my own? Well, that was actually the plan about maybe 5 years ago, that I had wanted to move to El Paso so we could be closer. But, being here in Vegas, things just kind of got caught up, and, year by year went by, and eventually he got married and has his own place and is living with an in-law, so he's doing just fine on his own. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. I'm glad he's doing as well as he is doing right now. But that was a plan. But heck, life gets in the way, and plans change. So yeah. But heck, if the offer had, if I was able to give myself an early enough warning about things that could have been avoided, would I have done it if I'd had the opportunity? Absolutely. I'm not sure how long we would have been roommates. I think it would have been best if we had done it like maybe after I got out of college, because then maybe we would have at least been roommates for at least 2, 3, maybe 4 years max before he would get married. And at that point, yeah, I would not want to live with a married couple, just no matter how close I am with both people. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on the topic. Next question comes from Artis Gant. Interesting name. And you want to know, during the conversation Raiden had with the Patriot AI near the end of Metal Gear Solid 2, do I think he lied to him when he said that they had Rose captured just so they could manipulate him further so the S3 plan could continue? They already confirmed that was a lie. That was a lie. No. Rose was working with them, so she was at no point in no danger. Yeah. That's already been confirmed. It was all made up. That's kind of what this AI does. It does what it needs to do in order to get people to do what they need them to do. But sometimes you can kind of seal the facade for what it really is, and that's something Raiden definitely picked up soon after the end of Metal Gear Solid 2. So yes, they did absolutely lie. Rose was in no danger. Everything worked out just fine. Didn't necessarily work out too well for Raiden, because he did get captured and get experimented on and became a cyborg ninja. But that's another story for another time. But that's already been confirmed. And the last question of the episode comes from Anakin Skywalker, and you want to know, what happened between me and my family, and why don't I enjoy seeing my siblings? Okay, well, Dad died 3 years ago. That kind of broke everybody up, because Dad was really the prime heart of how everybody did things. Mom is out on the road a lot. I'm not going to say what she does, but she's away a lot, so I don't see her as often as I do. I keep in contact with her, through phone calls as much as I can, and she sometimes pops through Vegas, and I'm able to see her and do little tasks for her. But that's mom, and it's not that I don't like looking at seeing my siblings. It's just we're not that close. And it's just the fact that the situation that I'm in right now is exactly the way it was before Dad died. I mean, one of us is 37, I'm 30, the youngest is 25. I do not. We need to split up. At some point, you need to. Even with siblings, there comes a point where you just need to venture out on your own, and that's something that I know that those two just will never do, at least in my lifetime. I'm not sure if I'll live to see that, and so it's just more of just me wanting to just venture out and be on my own. I've realized this. I'm 30 now. I've never had the opportunity to actually live on my own. In college, I had 3 other roommates. When I moved to Riverside, I was living with family. When I lived in Dublin, I was living with friends, and so I realized I have never once had an opportunity to be on my own, and I think it's about time I do that. And that is absolutely something I'm going to be pushing towards in 2021. I've already told them this, even regardless of how hard it might be just to be on my own. It's something that needs to absolutely happen because I'm kind of sick and tired of life making decisions for me. It's about time that we start making life decisions because we want to, not because it's forced upon us. I mean, I can tell you this much. This gets a little bit personal, but me and my sister constantly argue about saying how Dad's death was a positive, or she claims it's a positive. It was not a positive. She claims that, well, if Dad hadn't died, we probably wouldn't have done anything. We probably would still be living under his roof, and I completely disagree. We did not need Dad to die in order to get to where we are now. A scare would have been okay. If he'd had a heart attack and at least survived, or maybe a stroke or something, that would have given us a heads up that we are in a very vulnerable position and we shouldn't rely so much on Dad. And I absolutely probably would have moved out a year later. No question, because I don't want to be as reliant on him as we all were. And we were all very reliant for so long. And I realize, and even she doesn't recognize this, my dad, by the time he was my age, has done more with his life in the 70s than all 3 of us will probably do by the time he got to his age. Like, by the time my dad was my age, he had been through 2 tours in Vietnam, had already been married, was maybe less than a year and a half away from being a parent himself, and had been around the world and done so many things. And yet here I am, I'm 30 years old, still living in a city I've hated for at least the past decade, and I'm doing anything in my power to try to get out, and I just always seem to come back. I went to college in Tempe, Arizona, or Phoenix, Arizona, went there, got out, came back to Vegas. Moved to Riverside, stayed there for 6 months, had to move back to Vegas. Went to Dublin, California, loved living there. Something happened, had to come back, and I've been stuck here ever since. I am desperate to get out of Vegas. Just like I'm almost willing to do anything, just anything. I'm a firm believer that you should never stay where you grew up. My dad grew up in the East Coast, ended up living here in the West. My mom grew up in Compton, California, and now she's lived in multiple different locations. I've lived in Vegas most of my life, probably more than 25 years. I think the most amount of time in total I've lived outside of Vegas is maybe 2 years. Like a year in England, 6 months, maybe 6 months maybe a year or 2 or 2.5 years at most out of 30 years. And that's ridiculous. I would do anything just to live somewhere else and establish my own roots and then just start actually feeling like I'm living someplace. So, oh man, I got off topic. But going back to your previous question, it just comes down to, see, we've spent just too much time together. I mean, even if you're close with your family or your siblings, you have to acknowledge that at some point you have to venture off. it's just something that has to happen regardless of the situation. And I would prefer to do it before, I lose another family member and then be forced to have to make a life change. That's my view on the whole thing. And my siblings don't see it that way. And that's just something that we stand on completely different sides of the board. I think that this is a real problem. They don't. And it's been that way for like the past 25 years where, I'm not going to say I hate my siblings. I don't hate them. I care, but I won't go so far as to say I love my siblings. I can't say that. I have a closer relationship with Antoine. I've said this many times. He is more of a brother to me than my blood siblings have ever been. I mean, most of my stuff will go to him. If I live long to have kids, they will not go to my blood siblings. They will go to him. I will make sure of that they understand that, because I would prefer my memory be preserved by probably one of the few people that actually made effort to get to know me and actually cares about me. And it's not my blood siblings. I don't think they hate me, but they just tolerate me. I mean, just because we come from the same sperm pool does not mean that we actually have to, be a big old happy family, when it was never that at any point in our lives. And it probably will never be that. We will never have a close relationship till the day we die. And that's just a fact. And it's a sad truth, but that is just how my life is. And I'm just kind of sick of being in this depressive mood right now. And I would like to go somewhere else and just start over and finally start living. I mean, giving you a chance to actually just have a life. I mean, it doesn't even need to be an exotic or a magnificent life, just a basic life. And, that's just been the challenge. And man, this rant went on way too long, but I'm sorry. That's just kind of that's a glimpse of the situation I'm in right now. I could go on for hours and hours, and I've talked to multiple different psychiatrists and doctors about this whole situation, but yeah, that's just a glimpse of what I'm going through and why I just don't like being around my blood siblings as much. But it goes significantly deeper and much more personal, but I think that I'll save that for like another time. So I'm going to cut it there, and I want to thank the three of you that sent in your questions. And remember, if you guys have any more questions that you would like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get them into me roughly before next Wednesday, before noon, before someone filming the next episode. And remember that it is one question per person. And if you want to increase your odds of having your question answered in the video, make sure they're a little bit more interesting and not just so simple. That usually works. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.